Okay, it's 6:30. I'll give Selectwoman Roundtree-Olaf another moment, although she did say we could start without her. Melissa, do you know if Attorney Dunville and Jen are going straight to the other, or are they coming here first?
Jen is already in the waiting room for the other one, and I told Attorney Dunville that they could do that as well.
Fine. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, for the sake of time, I'm going to call the meeting to order at this time, and we can read the introduction, and hopefully Selectwoman Roundtree-Olaf will be with us at that point. So I'll call the, oh, there she is. Hi, Lovey. I'll call the meeting to order at this time. Good evening, Exeter. Good evening to my colleagues on the board, respective town staff, those who are in the attendees, and those of you watching at home. As chair of the Exeter Select Board, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Public notice of this meeting was posted on the town website and on the bulletin board of the town offices at 10 Front Street on February 26, 2021. As provided in that public notice, the public may access the meeting online and via phone. We remind the public that the usual rules of conduct and decorum apply. All votes taken this evening will be done via roll call, and I'll start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states they're present, please also state whether there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting and who that person is, which is required under the Right to Know law. Good evening, Selectman Darrell Brown.
Hello, I am alone in my business.
Thank you. Good evening, Selectwoman Lovey Roundtree-Olaf.
I'm home, alone.
Thank you. The clerk, Selectwoman Julie Gilman. Good evening.
Good evening. I am alone in my office.
Okay. And the Vice Chair, Selectwoman Molly Cowan. Good evening.
Hi, everybody. My partner, Liz Canada, might be in and out of the room for a little bit, but then it'll mostly just be me.
Great. Thank you. Also with us, Interim Town Manager Melissa Roy. Good evening, Melissa.
Good evening. I am here. My family is somewhere in the house, but should be leaving me alone.
Great. Thank you. And our Recording Secretary, Joanna Bartel. Good evening, Joanna.
Hello. I'm alone.
Okay. Before we commence the Select Board meeting of March 1st, 2021, at this time I would entertain a motion to enter into non-public session.
Mr. Chair, I move to enter into a non-public session under 91A3 Roman numeral 2 parentheses I for the purpose of advice from counsel.
Second.
Okay, Madam Clerk.
Selectman Brown.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
Selectwoman Roundtree-Olaf.
Aye.
Clerk says aye. Mr. Chair?
Aye. Motion passes. We'll enter into non-public. We have to exit this meeting and then go into the other, and we'll return shortly. Thank you. Okay. Just looking for Julie. There she is. Okay, prior to entering into non-public, the board introductions were made. The meeting was called to order. We can continue at this time. We do not have any board interviews. We'll move on to public comment. This is an opportunity for the public to comment to the board. We would ask, though, that if any public has any comment having to do with relating to anything on the agenda, that they wait for that agenda item. I don't see any attendees. So I will close public comment. Before we move on, I'll make a public service announcement. Received an email after our packet was put together and after the close of business on Friday. This is good news from PEA Director of Facilities, Mark Layton, and this is in follow-up to the update that we received from Principal Rawson last week. As of February 26th, PEA trails within the athletic fields and academy grounds, Academy Woods, are open to all. Signs are placed at the access points. The Academy does ask that masks be worn and that at least 6 feet social distancing is performed. And the campus grounds and the walkways remain closed to visitors. So PEA has graciously opened up their fields and the paths within the fields and the grounds as of February 26th. Moving on, we've got the minutes from our Select Board February 22nd, 2021 meeting. If there are no amendments or revisions, then I would entertain a motion to approve the Exeter Select Board regular meeting minutes of February 22nd, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Selectman Brown.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
And clerk says aye. Mr. Chair?
Aye. Motion passes. And now we come up to appointments. We've been interviewing over the past few months for the Arts and Culture Advisory Commission. The commission was set up for 7 regular members, and we've had 9 interviews. We do not have any additional applications, so this seems like a prudent time for us to take up appointments to this committee. Again, there'll be 7 regular members. There will be staggered term limits. There'll be two terms of 1 year, 2 terms of 2 years, and 3 terms of 3 years. So it's 2 terms for 1 year, 2 terms for 2, and 3 terms for 3 years. Madam Clerk, if you would, I have in alphabetical order the 9 applicants, and similar to how we did the Police Stakeholders Commission, we can go down all 9 names, do a hand vote if you are interested in appointing that individual, and then Madam Clerk, if you would take a tally at the end of the 9 names. Obviously, those that have a unanimous vote would be considered for appointment, and then from there, much like we did with the last committee, go by the next number of votes. So any questions or comments before we begin? I'm going to take a moment to find where my hand is to raise. Got it. Okay. Madam Clerk, are you all set?
Yes, if you would read the names first, I'll make the motion.
Okay, the first name is Dawn Amy.
Mr. Chair, I move to appoint Dawn Amy to the Arts and Culture Committee for a term of 2 years, beginning April 30th, 2020.
Before you make that motion, did we want to do it like we did the police, where we said the names, we did the hand vote?
Sure.
Just in that way,
I withdraw my motion.
it gives everybody equal consideration that way.
Certainly.
So I'll say the name, and then if we want to vote to consider appointing, we put our hand up. You'll tally the hands.
Yes.
So we'll start with the first name is Dawn Amy.
Okay. Is everybody ready? Okay, let's lower your hands.
Real quick, sorry. Should we just read all the names off first? Because I'm looking and I don't see them in the packet of everyone who, or maybe I missed that. What page is that on?
Yeah, no, we didn't attach the applications again, but I can read the names off again.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
So it's Dawn Amy. This is in alphabetical order. Dawn Amy, Tony Calandrello, David Druin, Todd Heron, Bruce Jones, Ann Kenny, Mary Page Provost, Scott Ruffner, Marissa Vitolo. Okay. Madam Clerk, are you ready for me to move on?
Yes.
Okay. The next name is Tony Calandrello.
Excuse me, Mr.
Yes.
Chair, do we want to move on, or do we want to start back up since Selectman Roundtree?
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. Let's start over. The first name on the list is Dawn Amy.
Is everybody done? Okay, thank you. Lower your hands.
Okay. The next name on the list is Tony Calandrello.
Okay, is everybody ready? All right, lower your hands.
You too, Madam Clerk.
I know. Things keep overriding. Okay.
The next name on the list is David Druin.
Okay. Lower your hands. Next.
The next name is Todd Heron.
Okay. That is it.
Okay. Next is Bruce Jones.
Okay, if everyone's done, lower your hands.
The next name is Ann Kenny.
Okay, is everyone done? Okay, lower your hands.
The next name is Mary Page Provost.
All right. If you lower your hands, including me.
Okay. And then next we have Scott Ruffner.
All right. If you're done, lower your hands.
And last but not least, Marissa Vitolo.
Okay, we are finished.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Okay, with that roll call, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 with 3 votes for, and 1 vote, or 1 person with 1 vote and 1 person with 0. So that makes 7.
Okay, would you like to make the motions? Or actually, if you list the 7 names, then give the opportunity for members of the board to not only make a motion, but also for the term limit.
Okay.
Be a more inclusive process.
Yes. I need Don, is it Don Amy?
Don Amy.
Yeah. I move to appoint Don Amy to position on the Arts and Cultural Committee for a term of 2 years, beginning April 30th, 2021.
Second.
Any discussion?
So how are we going to determine the years? Should it be whoever got the most votes gets the longest term or the shortest term?
Well, they're all tied.
There. Clever.
Okay, so there was one candidate with 1 vote.
1 vote was 0, 1 vote was 1, and the rest were all 3.
Okay.
They can be random, Selectman Brown. I mean, there's no real, to the best of my knowledge, any written. I mean, we did that with the Sustainability Committee several years ago. We just staggered them, and whoever made the motion throughout the term.
Yeah.
So I guess versus asking the individuals who are voted in, would that not make sense?
No, that typically we appoint people for a term.
Okay.
So there's a motion and a second for Don Amy for a 2-year term. Any further discussion? Madam Clerk?
Selectman Brown?
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan?
Aye.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf?
Aye.
The clerk says aye. Mr. Chair?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Madam Clerk, if we could get the list of names of the other 6 people, we don't necessarily have to go in alphabetical order, and it would give the board members an opportunity to make motions.
Certainly.
So there are 6 other names in addition to Don.
Yes. So do you want me to list them all and then make a motion?
And then that way the board, various board members can make motions. So it's not just one person making the motion.
All right. We have Tony Calandrello, Todd Heron, Bruce Jones, Don Kenny, and Mary Page. Oh, sorry. And Mary Page, last name?
Provost.
Provost, thank you. And Scott Ruffner.
Thank you. Okay, now that we have the 6 names, members of the board are free to make motions for any of the 6 with term limits.
I'll move that we appoint Tony Calandrello for a 3-year term to the Arts and Cultural Committee.
Second.
Whoa.
Motion is second. Further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Selectman Brown?
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan?
Aye.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf?
Aye.
The clerk says aye. Mr. Chair?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay.
Anybody else like to make a motion? Doesn't have to be an alphabet. Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I'll move to appoint Mary Page Provost to a term of 2 years.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Selectman Brown?
Aye.
Selectwoman Roundtree, Selectwoman Cowan. I'm going to stay in order this time.
Aye.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
The clerk says aye. Mr. Chair?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Chair?
Oh.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I move to appoint Todd Herron to the Arts and Culture Committee for a term of 2 years.
We already have 2 years.
Sorry, 3 years.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Selectman Brown?
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan?
Aye.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf?
Yep. Aye.
The clerk says aye. Mr. Chair?
Aye. Motion passes
What are
unanimously.
the terms left?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
What are the terms that we have left?
Sure. We have 1 3-year left.
And 2 1 year?
And two 1 year. Thank you.
All right, I'll make a motion for Scott Ruffner to work for 3 years for the town. I'm just kidding. I'll make a motion for Scott Ruffner to have a 3-year term.
Is there a second? I'll second it. Discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Selectman Brown?
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan?
Aye.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf?
Aye.
The clerk says aye. Mr. Chair?
Aye. We have 2 left. We have Bruce Jones and Ann Kenny.
I'm having trouble going back and forth between speakers and the thing.
We can hear you, Chief. So I would entertain motions for 1-year terms for both Mr. Jones and Ann Kenny.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Selectman Brown?
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan?
Aye.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf?
Aye.
The clerk says aye. Mr. Chair?
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Just to recap, we have 2 1-year terms, Bruce Jones and Ann Kenny. 2 2-year terms, Don Amy and Mary Page Provost. And we have 3 3-year terms, Scott Ruffner, Todd Herron, and Tony Calandrello. Congratulations to the 7 of you. And thank you, board. Okay. Moving to our discussion and action items, I see Mr. Moderator Paul Scafidi. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, everyone. This is just a little recap before next Tuesday, a week from tomorrow, Election Day. This should be a very short blurb tonight, and after 13 months, I'm sure it'll be a nice break that we won't have to meet on elections for the next 11 months. And at that point, there'll be another moderator to do all the work with you. So come Friday of this week, we will be pre-processing absentee ballots, probably around 10 o'clock in the morning at the town office building. I'm not sure yet how many absentees we have. The last I heard, there were 56 requests. That was last Friday. Again, to let people know that absentee ballots are still available for those that have an issue with the COVID process. So they still have time to order them, get down to the town clerk's office, or they can do it through the drive up at the day of the election. The election itself will be the exact same way we did it in November, with parking separately for non-masked people to enter the building. Entering in the backside will be for masked people only. They will go in and out like they did before. Same thing with the non-masked. It'll be a little quicker this time because I believe the supervisors of the checklist don't have to be as exact because it's town voting versus state and national voting. So that makes it a little easier on the clerks. For those that have not registered to vote and want to, they can vote the day of the election. They can sign up at that point. Everything else pretty much is going to be the same. If anybody has any questions, we're happy to answer them, but with any luck, there'll be a lot less people showing up next Tuesday. We'd like to have more, but if it's any indication, I would say we're going to have a pretty light turnout. Any questions? You've all been through this before.
Any questions for the moderator? I don't see any, Paul. I guess we'll see you Tuesday the 9th, a little before 7.
Yep, and I will probably see you Thursday afternoon.
You will definitely see me. Yep.
So we're going to do a little Riverwoods meeting Zoom-wise, so that'll be interesting to say the least. So if I don't see you before then, I will see you all next Tuesday. Good luck, Molly, on your re-election, and we'll see you all then.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Mr. Chair, just as a quick FYI, I cannot be there because I'm on the ballot, so I will find a replacement, but it'll be really important that everybody else is inside the building.
Molly, before I go, technically you can be because you're running unopposed.
Oh, well, okay then.
All right.
Well, you know what? Actually, I still would like to hold signs.
No. I understand. But if you want to go in and out of the building, as long as you're not wearing things or whatever, because you're running unopposed, I believe they kind of go a little bit on the waiver side with that stuff. But if you feel more comfortable just being outside.
I do. I feel more.
And you don't worry about finding somebody. There'll be plenty of us to do the work.
Great. Thanks, Paul.
Take care.
Thanks, Paul. And thank you, Selectwoman Cowan. Okay, next we have a continuation of our discussion from last week on the Great Bay nitrogen presentation. We have DPW Director Jennifer Perry with us, as well as Attorney Adam Dunville. Good evening to both of you.
Good evening, and thank you. Good, I see Adam is with us. Yes, this is a continuation of our discussion last week on the intermunicipal agreement with the other 12 municipalities in the watershed that have wastewater treatment plants. It's an opportunity to join in together to conduct water quality monitoring and other efforts that are needed to address tasks that are listed in the new Great Bay Total Nitrogen Permit, which you did all vote to opt into last week. We will be developing that notice of intent this week and getting that prepared for submittal to EPA. So this is the next piece that offers an opportunity to collaborate with the other communities towards water quality monitoring, other efforts that are necessary for the permit. The intermunicipal agreement, the draft version of that is in your packets, along with the attachment number 2, which is what would authorize the town manager to act in your behalf if you so choose, and the cost allocation that would be, or the cost contribution that would be associated with the design flows for the wastewater treatment plants for those communities.
So, Director Perry, if I understand your memo correctly, it would be an increase from perhaps the 18 to 32,000 already being spent to approximately 22 and change, up to $55,600. Can you remind me where those funds come from in the budget?
So those are associated with the wastewater treatment plant monitoring piece, and we have also contributed from stormwater a minor amount. It's probably 1/4 of that amount.
Okay, thank you.
And contributions towards the intermunicipal agreement would be taken from those line items. It would not be an additional line item or something that was added. We would just redirect those funds. Ultimately, they probably would still wind up getting to PrEP. It's just making decisions collaboratively how the municipalities that join into the IMA want to have those funds expended.
Okay, thank you. And just to remind the board, there's an opt-in deadline date for April 2nd. So between this meeting and our meeting on March 29th, we'd have to make a decision. Any questions or comments from the board to either Attorney Dunville or Director Perry?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I just have one thing that I need clarification on because it keeps going back and forth in my head. So if we go into this inter-municipality agreement, are the funds that we pay out to PrEP right now, we'd no longer be paying, it would go through the agreement?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And Director Perry, is there an opt-out in this agreement?
There is. There's a 30-day notification required from anybody who's a member to be able to opt out. And there's the expectation that you would complete your contribution towards the water quality monitoring for that given year. So in my mind, you basically have until November of each year to decide whether or not you want to opt out to get out before the next year starts.
Okay, thank you. And is there any chance that the estimate given here, could that exceed the $55,600 possibly?
It could in a given year, but I actually no, I doubt that. There is a cap in the IMA for nothing more than $500,000. The only way it could change is, as has been pointed out, if not every community opts in, how is the gap going to be shared across those that do opt in? Realize, though, that the three largest communities, Dover, Rochester, and Portsmouth, have all opted in, and the rest of the communities are significantly smaller. Exeter's the next largest, then I believe Somersworth or Durham, and then Newmarket and the others are all fairly small.
Okay.
I have one more question, Mr. Chair.
Please.
Just for the public's education, what is the advantage of doing this as opposed to staying on our own?
There are, I think the main advantage here is that we would be working collaboratively with the other municipalities with a larger pool of money to do water quality monitoring, which is very expensive when you do field work in the bay. This is not necessarily monitoring at the end of the discharge pipes for the wastewater treatment plants, which we are all doing already. This is to do work in the bay, field work in the bay, and I think, that's probably the biggest reason. Adam, there may be something I'm forgetting that was another incentive for us to join. I think just, again, this is supportive of the new Great Bay total nitrogen permit. And anybody who signs on to that has to be ready to do some pretty heavy lifting. Exeter's done a fair amount of that because we've been operating under our administrative order, but we haven't done ambient water quality monitoring. That would be something new for us, and to have the support and the collaboration of other communities, I think, would be significant.
Thank you.
One more question, Director Perry, for either you or Attorney Dunville or both. What would be the downside for the town not joining this?
I should have anticipated that question. Downsides to not joining, I would say, again, going it alone on the water quality monitoring side can get very expensive very quickly. We'd probably spend more than $55,000 a year to do the level of effort that would be needed for the town of Exeter alone.
Okay. Attorney Dunville, did you have anything to add?
I think the collaborative nature of the intermunicipal agreement is a very big portion of what is anticipated in the general permit. The general permit has significant advantages, I think, to the town of Exeter, and we want to make sure that over the next 5 years we will be covered under that general permit, and the intermunicipal agreement helps us get there.
Great, thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board? Does the board feel that they have enough information at this point to consider a motion, or would you like to put this on the agenda for either the 15th or 29th? Might be cutting it tight, but is the board comfortable now, or do we need more time?
I'd be comfortable now.
Selectwoman Rountree-Olaf?
Nothing's going to change between now and then, I guess, right? So, yeah.
Okay. Selectwoman Gilman?
Yes.
Okay. Selectwoman Cowan?
Same. I would love to not have to have Attorney Dunville come back to us. I mean, you're always welcome.
I take that personally, Adam.
and we appreciate your expertise and your help, but it would be great to not keep paying an attorney here.
Sure. Then I would entertain a motion if that's the wishes of the board.
Let's see.
I think Selectwoman Gilman, something along the lines of,
I know, I'm trying to write out what I need to say.
allowing the interim town manager to sign the intermunicipal agreement.
Hold on a second.
Spell that out.
Yes. Oh, here we go. Mr. Chair, I move to enter to join the intermunicipal agreement for development of an adaptive water quality management plan for Great Bay Estuary, and assign the authority to our interim town manager, Melissa Roy, to sign any documents necessary.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Selectman Brown?
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan?
Aye.
Selectwoman Rountree-Olaf?
Aye.
Clerk says aye. Mr. Chair?
Aye. Motion passes. Melissa, did you have a question?
Thank you. I was just wondering if it was going to be contingent upon how many communities joined on, if the approval was no matter how many communities joined on, or if there was some concern if not enough joined. I apologize for my late comment.
Well, I would say we have a year of commitment. Is that correct, Jennifer?
That's correct. We'd be committing for a year, I believe, as we sign on the work tasks for this season. 2021 would be decided at that organizational meeting. So the level of effort hasn't been decided at this point. If it's lower and it's closer to that $250,000 level, it's going to be, more like 22,000 plus. We could ask that where we've been involved for a lot longer than the others, that perhaps the big three, as we call them, would step up and absorb those costs. And I know Adam has mentioned that at their meetings.
Great, thank you.
I think the understanding, or at least the proposal to the larger three communities, would be that as long as we are still subject to our administrative order on consent, which is requiring us to conduct or to fulfill the requirements under our nitrogen control plan, we've been making the payments to PrEP, et cetera, that we would essentially be asking to not have to contribute as much funds or any funds until that the EPA accepts our notice of intent to opt into the general permit, at which time then I would expect the town to be required to pay that intermunicipal agreement recommended funds. But as I think we are alluding to, that is still in the works. And once we have a solid understanding of that, we can certainly report back to the board. And if there are any necessary updates at that time, we could discuss. But I don't anticipate anything substantial.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I just have one thing. Did I say in my motion interim town manager?
I believe you said interim town manager Melissa Roy.
All right. Can I? Yeah. Okay. Never mind.
What were your thoughts, Selectwoman Gilman?
My thoughts were that we don't have an end date, I guess, for Ms. Roy's position. So should we specify it that specifically? Although given we have a month to get in there.
How soon, Jennifer, how soon would we sign this?
Well, Adam and I can talk tomorrow offline. I know that he mentioned there's another meeting later this week with EPA that I'm not sure if we'd have it prepared in advance of that or if there's a reason to do that, but we wouldn't want to sit on this very long. I would say it would be within the week that we'd want to complete this and have it submitted. I think, again, it sends an important signal where the town of Exeter is heading. So I think that's important to get this out.
Thank you. And Selectwoman Gilman, your concern was incredibly valid. I think that if we're talking about within the next week, that your motion would be accurate.
Thank you. I just wanted to be sure everyone was clear.
No, thank you. That's a good point. Okay, Attorney Dunville, thank you, and Director Perry, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we're moving on to the COVID update that we do.
Did we actually vote on that?
I thought you made a motion.
Yes.
Vote.
We voted.
We
Okay.
voted.
Sorry, I'm getting all my votes blended. Thank you.
It's been so long since we voted. Are we sure we voted?
We did vote.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Chief Wilking.
Well, good evening, all.
Good evening.
Sorry, I was going back between headphones and my computer, and I wasn't sure if you heard me or not. So if I blurted out during your meeting, I apologize for that. So quick update.
We've all done it.
The numbers continue to trend in a positive direction. We were seeing numbers 1,100 daily tests positive in New Hampshire. The rolling average is about 300, 310. And just as of tonight, hot off the press, the state of New Hampshire numbers are 164. So we are absolutely moving in the right direction. And there's a number of things that could be attributed to that as we move away from the holidays and more get vaccinated and whatnot, but it's all looking good. Since our last meeting on the 19th, Exeter has had 23 new positives for our total of 684, and we're tracking through dispatch of 29 current cases in the state of, in the town of Exeter. The fixed site is still working well. It's one of the most efficient as far as getting people in and out and not using or having much waste. In other words, doses that they have to literally throw away. The Exeter site is seeing between 700 and 800 people daily. The numbers do go down periodically, but 800 is a pretty good average over the last couple of weeks. And there's a lot of effort. The Guard is doing an outstanding job from all accounts, and the fire EMS personnel that are stepping in to augment or supplement them, if you will, are doing a great job. I've been asked to assist in a statewide super site. More information will come out soon, but the state is looking to run a 3-day super vac site at the Raceway in Loudon. Looking to do about 12,000 residents, all within that 1B group. And I'll be assisting the Director of Homeland Security and DHHS, and hopefully sharing what Exeter has learned down here at our site over that 3-day weekend. It'll be Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the 6th, 7th, and 8th. So I'll be away in Loudon over that time frame. But hopefully I'll bring back some things we can share here in our site as well. Exciting news, the Exeter Fire Department, partnering with the Seacoast Region Public Health, will be running our first mobile vax clinic on Thursday, March 4. We'll be invading the residents at 277 Water Street and offering vaccinations to those that have registered. I know Chief Pizon is on this call, but our numbers look like it's going to be right around 80 residents that are that have pre-registered, that have yet to receive the vaccine at a fixed site or Walgreens or others. We're excited about starting that, and we hope that's a positive trend. We continue more and more mobile sites to help complement the fixed site in Exeter. That's good. I know Jen is on, but I received a report that the 2 positive cases we had in Exeter employees have recovered, returned to work, and things are beginning to get back to normal again as far as emergency services, DPW, and the town offices. All good things to report tonight. So I'll stop there for questions and allow Chief Poulin and perhaps James Murray to step in.
Great. Thank you, Chief. Any questions for Chief Wilkin?
I would just like to say how, I guess, funny it is that the mobile vac site's opening up on March 4th, which is the only date in the year that is a command. So March 4th and vaccinate people.
Well, we chose it, not certainly with anything in mind. We kind of had to pick it about 2 weeks in advance because we have to order the vaccine on Tuesday of this week in order to have it available for Thursday. So, yeah, there wasn't a lot of thought going into that, but hopefully it'll go well. So.
Thank you, Chief. Next, we have James Murray. Mr. Murray, good evening.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Not too much to report since last week. I've had a few more complaints of non-compliance, which I've been working through with individuals. The state is taking over contact tracing once again, now that our numbers have gone lower. They will not be doing the calls to individuals, the checkup calls like they were at the beginning of the pandemic, but they will be taking over contact tracing once again. Since the numbers are much lower now, they can handle the load right now. Other than that, I have nothing else to update.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Murray, our health officer? Okay, seeing none, we have Chief Poulin and Deputy Chief Monk. Good evening.
Good evening. Just wanted to update you on the vaccination sites. The police across the state have been asked to help out at those sites for security. Just as a precautionary, there's been no reported threats or any kind of indication of a threat coming, but they've reached out. And so for Exeter, what you'll see some Exeter police there, and also some of our surrounding towns are assisting with their police officers as well. It's 100% recuperable to the town of Exeter, so there's no funds that the taxpayers are going to be paying for that.
Great, thank you, Chief. Any questions for Chief Poulin? Great, thank you, Chief. And Jennifer, while you're on, did you want to give an update on Public Works?
Yes, I can just give a brief update. As the chief already reported, we have been back full force as of Monday last week, and we continue to provide the essential services that the department needs to. I just want to acknowledge the hard work of many employees in the department, even during quarantine, that voluntarily came in and provided services. We had those 2 snowstorms and a water main break, and the employees did a great job of providing those services. And we had also conversations with New Hampshire DOT and other public works agencies as may have been needed. We didn't need that, but it's good to know that there are other agencies that are willing to support and in an important way, and it works both ways. And one of the ways we learned about this was through the web EOC effort that the New Hampshire DOT and HSEM has put forth, and that's been an important tool. It really shows the availability of the statewide workforces for public works. And we're encouraging them to continue that, not just during the pandemic, but during any times that could be particularly stressful for agencies, to make sure that there's adequate staffing and availability.
Great. And I want to thank you also for working with staff to enforce the mask wearing and the social distancing and all that to prevent, another future quarantine. So I thank you. Okay. Moving on, we have an Assistant Fire Chief Justin Pizon to discuss EMT Life Pack 15.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'll be quick. So in the fall, I was approached by our sales rep for our Life Pack 15, which is our cardiac monitor that provides most of our essential vitals that we take on a call, anything from carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide levels, defibrillator, electricity for pacing, many other functions, and was alerted to the fact that the board that runs the machine was no longer being produced. And this only affected some of the earlier versions before version 2, and unfortunately we had one of those devices. So at the time that the offer they presented was to buy a new Life Pack 15, a current model, at a 50% discount. And they also gave a pretty generous $9,000 trade-in on the defective device. So obviously it's the letter that was sent to us was June. I was approached in, I think it was about October, and I waited to weigh the options, and realizing that probably our opportunity to buy one of these defibrillators at a 50% cost was too good to pass up. So quick background, I had already reached out to our finance director, to Doreen, regarding our current available funds in the ambulance revolving fund. Currently, our current balance is $158,629 with a projected 2021 end of $187,407. So I am here tonight to ask for the approval from the board to spend $20,420.72 out of our ambulance revolving fund to purchase a new Life Pack 15. In doing so, in 2023, we're scheduled to procure a new ambulance. Usually these purchases would take place at that time with the cost of the ambulance, and it will just be one piece of the expenditure that won't exist at that time, and it will save us 50% of the cost. So I think it's beneficial to all involved, the taxpayers, the ambulance payers that we charge for runs, and to the agency that we would have spent this money now.
Great. Thank you, Assistant Chief Pizon. Any questions?
I have no questions. I think that was well represented, so thank you.
I appreciate it. Yeah, and sadly, I will say, just to add on, is, when you think about the expense of some of these pieces of medical equipment, and you see the letter, I hope you had a chance to review, from June, when they give you a life expectancy of only 8 years, we're beyond that. Our current device is 9 years old, and to think that a half a $55,000 piece of equipment is good for 8 years, but it is what it is in the medical world.
Selectwoman Rountree-Olaf?
Not a question, but I do have to chime in and personally thank Assistant Chief Paisan for, he gave me a tour of the fire station last week. And as someone who's afraid of heights, heat, all things, I was really impressed with everything that they're doing at the fire station, Chief Wilkins. I really think that, we as a town need to really think about what our community is doing, and the fire chief and the assistant fire chief and the whole staff. And I got to meet some of the staff there, and it was an incredible experience. So I really want to thank you for that. The equipment down there is so impressive, and they take amazing care of everything. So, this is just to add on that I'm in favor of whatever you guys need, because I think
thank you very much.
It was quite an experience. So I have to thank you really for that.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments for the chiefs? And if there are none, then I would entertain a motion to authorize the fire department to purchase the Stryker Life Pack 15 in the amount of $20,420.72, funds to be used from the ambulance revolving fund.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Selectman Brown.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
Selectwoman Rountree-Olaf.
Aye.
The clerk says aye, Mr. Chair.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thanks, Justin.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you all for your support.
Thank you, Chief. Moving on, I see we have our Parks and Rec Director, Mr. Greg Bisson, with us. Good evening, Greg.
Good evening, Mr. Chair.
And you're here to talk about permitting events for 2021, I believe.
Yes. As you know, with COVID, we last updated the permit at the beginning of the pandemic. And recently we've run through and reviewed the application process. And reviewed it with James Murray, and he's approved that. But we're anticipating a lot of requests coming up, especially now that we have a cultural and art commission. One of the things, though, to Molly Cowan's request, we did reach out to a number of different communities, and it is a mixed review of what people are permitting and what they're not. There's still apprehension going into spring, but there is light at the end of the tunnel, as they said, as a lot of them are focusing on summer and fall events, but there's still opportunity in the spring. So as I think I presented last time we were here, it will be a case-by-case process that we would come to you. That's something important. I think that we need to look at the magnitude of the size event and what we can handle and what protocols they have in place. One of the things that is coming is this event technically would be the farmers market. Sorry. The farmers market wants to start in April. So that's something that we need to get this approved so we can go do the site walk and everything. But we anticipate having a quasi normal event season, if that is anything in COVID that we can say is normal.
Greg, will applicants still need to produce detailed plans as they did last year? If, for instance, maps and how they're going to go about.
That was something that, Mr. Chair, that we are always required was maps of the event layout so we would know, but even more so of how we're going to do it. As we know, like, for instance, Swayze Parkway has several accesses to the park. So we got to account for all of those. So we want to make sure that any applicant that wants to hold a special event should be as thorough as possible. I always tell people that have called the office is write it like we're a second grader so we can understand exactly how you're doing it. Because unless they put it down in writing, we all know sometimes it is best to have it in writing, so they guarantee they'll be doing.
Okay. And I don't know if James is still on, but Greg, you said he's reviewed this?
Yes, yeah. And James did send the text, and I don't know if he's still on, but he said he was going to log off after the COVID update. But yeah, James reviewed it, and we compared it to the state guidelines, which again, the state guidelines for fairs and festivals, just for the board aware, has not been updated. We're still trying to get word from the task force when they are going to start updating those. There's a few of them that have been lagging behind, and fairs and festivals are one of them.
Okay. To date, how many applications do you have?
Zero.
Okay. Questions or comments from the board for Mr. Bisson? Okay. Greg, are you looking for any action tonight, or are you just presenting the updated form?
Just presenting the updated form. That's something that, again, you guys made the motion back in September that you would have it, the power to rule all permitting until the state of emergency is over. The governor keeps updating it every 21 days. So for the foreseeable future, we'll be coming to you for all events. But we are anticipating, because we do know a couple of them are interested in getting out there. And we will have those for you in prompt time so we can review everything and make our recommendation. As long as they follow the guidelines, Mr. Chair, I don't see a problem with it.
Okay.
And they could always go above and beyond the guidelines to make it safe for our residents.
Agreed. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. I know we'll be seeing you shortly, so.
Yeah.
Okay. That ends our discussion items. We'll go into regular business. And Madam Clerk, I'm scanning the packet. I believe we have quite a few abatements, credits, and exemptions to review. So whenever you're ready. And it looks like page 44.
I got it. I was ahead of you this time. Okay, Mr. Chair, I move to approve the tax abatement for MAP 95 Lot 39 in the amount of $1,010.80.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Selectman Brown.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
Clerk says aye, Mr. Chair.
Aye. Motion passes.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the tax abatement for MAP 87 Lot 14 in the amount of $7,511.08.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Selectman Brown.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
Clerk says aye, Mr. Chair.
Aye. Motion passes.
Mr. Chair, I move to deny the tax abatement for MAP 47 Lot 2, Unit 1.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Selectman Brown.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
Clerk says aye, Mr. Chair.
Aye. Motion passes.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I move to deny the tax abatement for MAP 87 Lot 14.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Selectman Brown.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
Clerk says aye, Mr. Chair.
Aye. Motion passes.
Okay. Next is a list of solar exemptions, which since they do not have any amount of money exchanged, we don't have to vote on, and I'll just list them off. MAP 72, Lot 224, Unit 3 and 4. There's too many numbers in there. MAP 11, Lot 18, Unit 3. MAP 82, Lot 1. MAP 62, Lot 15, Unit 2. MAP 74, Lot 117, map 95, lot 92, and map 24, lot 2. We have a lot more solar going on than anybody knows.
Madam Clerk, I think the third one up from the bottom is map 74, lot 112.
Yes, it is.
Just to correct the record.
Thank you.
Okay. Veterans credits.
Veterans credits. Mr. Chair, I move to approve a veterans credit for map 92, lot 79, unit 2 in the amount of $500.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Selectman Brown.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
And clerk says aye. Mr. Chair?
Aye. Motion passes.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I move to approve a veterans credit in the amount of $2,500, excuse me, for map 54, lot 4, unit 31.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Selectman Brown?
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan?
Aye.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf?
Aye.
And clerk says aye. Mr. Chair?
Aye. Motion passes.
Mr. Chair, I move to deny a veterans credit for map 95, lot 64, unit 188.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Selectman Brown?
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan?
Aye.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf?
Aye.
And clerk says aye. Mr. Chair?
Aye. Motion passes.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I move to approve a veterans credit in the for map 24, lot 2 in the amount of $500.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none? Madam Clerk?
Yep, Selectman Brown.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
The clerk says aye. Mr. Chair?
Aye. Motion passes.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve a veterans tax credit in the amount of for map 70, unit lot 39, excuse me, in the amount of $1,000.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Selectman Brown.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
Clerk says aye. Mr. Chair?
Aye. Motion passes.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I move to approve an elderly exemption for map 74, lot 39 in the amount of $183,751.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Selectman Brown.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
Clerk says aye. Mr. Chair?
Aye. Motion passes.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve an elderly exemption for map 73, lot 280 in the amount of $152,251.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk?
Selectman Brown.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
Clerk says aye. Mr. Chair?
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chair, I would just like to give applause to our tax department, the assessor's department, for thoroughly going through these abatement requests and approvals. We'll always have the information we need to make the decisions that are appropriate for the properties.
Yes. Thank you. Okay. Mr. Bisson?
Yes, thank you. In your packet, you will see two requests to use park improvement funds. The first request is we're looking to replace the roof on the Recreation Park Pavilion. It was built in 1999, which doesn't seem too long ago for most of us, but it's now showing signs of failure. It was a contribution from Exeter Farms Development when it was built. Shingles are flying off all over the soccer field. Water is just leaking through, so it is imperative that we actually replace the roof before it starts causing structural damage to it. We had several roofers come in and quote it, and I am recommending going with refined roofing out of Hampstead for $5,500. That will replace the roof, replace any rotted boards, as well as the cleanup, and it'll be new as rain.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Bisson?
Yes, I have one question. Mr. Bisson, in the difference between the quotes, was there any difference in the work that would be provided?
Not at all. Actually, it's the same shingle that we requested. It's just a basic architectural shingle with underlayment of ice and water shield, just so it better waterproofing for the eaves, and then replacing the boards. So we just went with a basic board, pre-primed. So when we come back to you next meeting, after we get a few more quotes, we're going to paint the pavilion so it looks new. So not only are we replacing the roof, but we need to paint it as well.
Okay, thank you.
It's quite a wide range of quotes.
Yeah.
I was quite surprised, Mr. Chair, when I got them as well.
Okay. If there are no other questions for Mr. Bisson, I would entertain a motion to allow the Parks and Recreation Department to expend up to $5,500 out of the Park Improvement Fund to contract with Refined Roofing to replace the roof on the Recreation Park Pavilion.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Selectman Brown.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
And clerk says aye. Mr. Chair?
Aye. Motion passes. We got one more, Greg?
One more. We are actually requesting use of the Park Improvement Fund as well to replace all the tennis court nets and posts. As you can see in the packet, it's been over 10 years. We're looking to put a better quality post in. One of the things with the posts that are currently in there, all the mechanisms are exposed to the elements. The post we're recommending, the Douglas Tennis DTP 37, actually has all the gears enclosed, so you actually keep the weather out of it. These are mostly found in colleges, universities, so they're a little higher end, but the quality should last for 10 plus years. To go along with that, we're also requesting to get polyester tennis nets. Most of the tennis nets that you've seen up there now have a vinyl on them. After a period of time, they start to crack. The polyester will last a lot longer in the elements as well, because we do keep our nets up year round. And I actually saw someone playing tennis today. So they are well used. The quotes are very close. You can't get these locally. So the locals we could get was Pioneer Athletics, which their sales rep is local. But they're pretty much the same thing. A total of $5,504 to purchase all of those. They would be ordered. They take a couple weeks to get. And then once the weather clears, we would go out there and put them all up so people can enjoy tennis more. And one of the reasons we need to do this now is we've gotten a lot of complaints as well on the condition of the nets. And some of them cannot be replaced because the mechanisms on the tennis posts have deteriorated to the point where once we take it down, there's nothing going back up.
Mr. Chair, I do have one question. Does the price quote include installation, or are we doing that on our side?
We're doing that on our side, Julie. It's actually literally, you pick the post up, you slip into the sleeve, and that's it. It's change and go. It's pretty easy to do.
Sure. Thank you.
It's needed. As someone who's out on the courts, it's definitely needed. So.
Any other questions for Mr. Bisson?
No.
Okay. I would entertain a motion to allow the Parks and Recreation Department to expend up to $5,500 $504 out of the Park Improvement Fund to purchase tennis nets and poles from Pioneer Athletics.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Madam Clerk?
Selectman Brown.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf, I'm sorry.
Aye.
The clerk says aye. Mr. Chair?
Aye, motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Bisson.
Thank you.
Okay. Melissa?
What's everyone doing tonight?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Good. So we were notified about a week ago, of this from New Hampshire DOT to announce a super move. So I just wanted to, and I apologize, it was after the packet was done. For those of you that don't know what we're talking about, basically there's a large piece of equipment that is going to be traveling from Portsmouth to Seabrook. And there will be some impact through Exeter. They are starting February 28th through Thursday, Friday, March 4th and 5th. The move, will be happening from 9 o'clock at night till 5 in the morning. Police and fire have been notified, as well as DPW, so they have all seen the route. Let's see, it's basically going to be a moving roadblock that will require traffic to be delayed and or making allowances to pass as frequently as possible along the designated route. State-maintained highways and local roads impacted by the super move include Maplewood Ave, Middle Street, Middle Road, New Hampshire Route 33, New Hampshire Route 108, New Hampshire Route 88, New Hampshire Route 27, Liberty Lane, US 1, North Access Road, and Provident Way. If you guys have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Melissa, can we update either our website or Facebook page with those routes for folks at home?
Absolutely, yep.
Okay.
And I will say that the police chief has been talking with other local communities so that they discuss access to the hospital and that every community is aware.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions for Melissa? Selectwoman Gilman?
No, thank you.
You look like you had one. Okay. Thanks, Melissa. Select Board Committee reports. Selectwoman Gilman, since you're unmuted, we'll start with you.
Thank you. All I've had is the Heritage Commission, where we gave a presentation about heritage neighborhood areas for input from the Park Street area. And we're going to meet again as a commission to talk about I forget the word, but to talk about the reactions that we got from the presentation before we do another public presentation. And the only other thing I have is, of course, my wonderful 2 days at the semi-state house in Bedford at the Sportsplex. And I think probably everyone has seen the news about how it went. I can't tell you particular bills and what they did, but and what happened. But there was a lot of work that was done.
Thank you.
And I will leave it at that.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf?
Nothing since last week.
Okay, thank you. Selectman Brown?
I attended the police stakeholders committee meeting, but I was interrupted by lots of pesky customers, so I don't have as much to share on that as Select Board Member Cowan will. And the rest of the meetings, all my remaining meetings are coming up. So.
Great, thank you. Selectwoman Cowan.
Sure. So the Police Stakeholders Committee was really interesting. We talked a lot about recruitment and background checks and what the practices look like. So it would be interesting to, hear what the next steps are from there. One of the things that we did learn is since the 90s, applicants the number of applications for police jobs have decreased, by a huge factor. And it's hard to say if that's because of salary, if that's because of responsibility, whatever it is. But there is a real struggle to get qualified applicants to apply for police positions when they're open. And so, our chief has really wanted to diversify recruitment. And often, they have 6 applicants. And so there is a struggle there. And then we also heard about, the kind of background checks that go into an applicant when they apply to be a police officer. And we learned that once you are background checked, the first time, there's no sort of subsequent investigation into your background, even if you're on the police force for a number of years. So it was a really interesting discussion. There was spirited debate. We did keep it mostly to an hour, though. I think we went over maybe by 15 minutes, which is pretty good for the committee. So tune in if you haven't been. They are very, very interesting discussions, which provide a huge amount of insight into the struggles of community policing.
Great, thank you. Selectwoman Gilman has a question, I think, or comment.
Oh, you're on mute.
I have a question or a comment. There are several pieces of legislation that are in the works that have to do with peace officers, one of which was whether our local patrol officers should be given the same authority as federal officers. And I just wondered if the committee is looking at it. I haven't heard from many police chiefs, if at all, on some of these bills. They go on towards making disciplinary action records totally public. The trainings, but the town already does. Our town already does. I think all of the trainings that were involved in one bill, which we can be very proud of. I would just recommend that you alert the committee members to the different bills that are coming up. I can send it out and urge them to sign on to a bill in either opposed or in support. It's very easy to do now since it's all electronic.
It is easy to weigh in on the legislative process. I will point out that our chief is, I think he's the chair of the government subcommittee with the Association of Chiefs of Police. So we do have some access to, he's a good person to talk to if you have concerns about legislation, because he is certainly watching that. And I also think it would be a great thing to bring those pieces of legislation before the committee to get people's eyes on this stuff.
Okay, then. Thank you.
Great, thank you both. And I did not have any committee meetings. The Sustainability Committee meets tomorrow night, but I did take a walk through Swayze Park Friday afternoon. The Tree Committee, along with Exeter TV Channel 22, did a walk through Swayze Park to look at a lot of the trees that are in the park and identifying some of the trees, and some of the Tree Committee members brought their children. The Swayze Park trustees were all there. They did post it as a site walk, though there was no business discussed. It was more of walking and identifying the trees. And it was a nice afternoon to get some fresh air, but I think Extra TV is going to run. I think they filmed for about a half hour, so you can look for that. It was pretty interesting. There's no correspondence this week. Of course, we just had a meeting last week, so board calendar, we have the election coming up on the 9th, as Mr. Scafidi talked about earlier. We're scheduled to meet again on the 15th and also on the 29th. And with that, I will turn it over to the board for any additional comments or questions or anything. And then if there are none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Seeing no further discussion, Madam Clerk.
Selectman Brown.
Aye.
Selectwoman Cowan.
Aye.
Selectwoman Roundtree Olaf.
Aye.
Clerk says aye. Mr. Chair.
Aye, we stand adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Stay well.